Hey there, YouTube. How's it going? Nerdy Narwhal here, and I'm back again today to take another look at a 6-scale action figure for review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Poptoys Ujio samurai action figure from the Last Samurai movie. Now, I don't believe this is an officially licensed action figure, but it's definitely one of the highest quality samurai action figures that I've ever had the pleasure of having on display in my collection. In terms of functionality, integrity, as well as just stylistically, you can't really do too much better than this 6-scale samurai if you just need a samurai on your shelf. Now, quick disclaimer, this helmet and this half face mask are not the stock ones that come with this figure. I will talk a little bit more about that. But I got the regular edition of this figure, as the deluxe edition that comes with his helmet, as seen in the Last Samurai movie, was sold out, and I found this for a pretty good deal. So I wanted to move on it pretty quickly and ended up picking this up and just getting that helmet and face mask off of Toy Anxiety to put onto the figure. Again, I wasn't necessarily looking for a figure from the Last Samurai movie exclusively. I did like the idea of having this particular actor's likeness on the shelf because he is so iconic to so many famous samurai movies and Western movies about the Eastern culture. He's a pretty great little actor. However, in terms of the character of Ujio, not necessarily someone I needed on the shelf. I just wanted an awesome samurai action figure, and that is what I got. So without further ado, let's hop in to the review. Now, just off the top, you can see that likeness to Hiroyuki Sanada. He's basically that go-to Japanese actor whenever Hollywood needs someone to play a Japanese character. And he's also starring in the spectacular, so far, Shogun FX TV show that I just started watching. That's what kind of prompted this relook at a 6-scale samurai. It's been a while since I've looked at one of these on the channel. But that likeness is pretty solid. He has some eyeshadow under his eyes, which was accurate to the character the last time I rewatched The Last Samurai. And underneath this helmet, he does have a bandana that sits really well on the head, as well as helps to keep that rooted hair back. Yes, he had a pretty long lion's mane in this movie that he did not tie up in a top knot, save for but a couple of scenes. Whenever he was really wearing this armor and engaging in battle, it was pulled back. Now you also get down to this armor. This armor looks absolutely fantastic, and it's really evocative of the armor that you get in the Ghost of Tsushima video game. I believe that armor was based on this armor. It's a combination, really, of some type of lamellar looking kit and samurai armor. Pure fantasy. I don't think that it's ever been proven or historically referenced that any samurai would have any piece of armor like this, but it looks spectacular on the shelf, and it functions really well. Each of these little plates is its own individual piece of metal tied down to the cloth underneath, and it feels really sturdy. I've posed the heck out of this guy and never had any issues, and that extends all the way throughout this breastplate, where there is a lot less flexibility because that's a hard plate underneath, but up here it's soft. If you get down, let's see if we can pull that back and get down a little bit to his waist area, that's softer too, and it affords the whole figure a really solid range of motion despite his very intricate outfit. All of these pieces here on his forearm, they're all tied down very sturdily to the body underneath. And this looks like some type of possibly a really fine ring mail that they were going for. It has a nice sheen to it, nice and metallic. Now you can also see on the belt there where they did actually opt to give us some real metal rings. It's just all around spectacular. And the whole look of this outfit on display is, it's always got something new to help catch your eye. The patterning on the, oh, I want to say cloak, but it's definitely not a cloak, but his shirt, I guess, underneath. I don't know all the names of all these pieces. His cloth outfit has textures all throughout, down to the pants. There's nothing that's really been skimped over. Everything has been captured in great likeness. Now, again, I went for the regular edition because that's what presented itself to me when I was looking to get this figure back into the collection. I have had the deluxe edition before, and I can tell you that is an equally great figure, but he will normally come with a similar face mask if you do get the deluxe edition that doesn't quite have the same neck protective piece, and it's also not quite the same color. I opted for this gold face mask that actually comes with the Poptoys Son of General, I think, or something similar to that. The kid, Katsumoto's kid. And I opted for this golden helmet here, which is actually from an Ico model 6-scale samurai figure. I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure about the heraldry on there. But I thought that the gold in general would complement some of the gold throughout this armor. This armor that is otherwise full of browns with some really nice looking patinaing going through these metallic pieces, and some gold paint on there. Either way, aesthetically, this is one supremely beautiful piece, whether you get the regular or the deluxe. And if you really want a helmet on it, but you can't find the deluxe, just do what I did. Go to Toy Anxiety, hunt down on eBay. You'll be able to find a 1/6 Kabuto, I think they're called. And it'll end up looking pretty solid, as you can see here. All right, now let's talk about accessories, starting with the stuff that I do not have currently on the figure. First of all, you are going to get a gripping gloved left hand, as well as a relaxed gloved right hand, as well as 2 gripping ungloved hands, as you can see there. Now, these are just your standard basic Ku model hand molds that you're getting there. On the figure, I have his gripping right hand and his relaxed left hand. And let me tell you, these hands are an absolute pain in the butt to get on and off the figure. And that's going to be because if you want to do it correctly, you are going to have to remove the hand, which is on those joints pretty tightly, as well as loop these hands through these little tiny loops which hold that forearm and hand armor onto the hand proper, and then plug it all back on. I opted to do that off camera when I took off his left gripping hand and replaced it for that left relaxed hand. So do be aware of that. Now, if you get the deluxe edition, you're going to get a couple of extra things. I know you get a little box, as well as that pretty cool helmet, the bull horns that he comes with. And that might be about it. You probably get a stand for the armor, stuff that I wouldn't typically use in display anyways, minus that cool bullhorn helmet. Now, on the figure right now, let's see, I'll get him rotated a little bit. You are going to get this little bamboo cup thing, which hangs onto his belt pretty well with that little metal clippy there. And it looks nice. It has a decent texturing going throughout. So that's pretty cool. And of course, you are going to get his all-essential swords. He comes with his 2 samurai swords. Here is his wakizashi, I think it's called. And I believe I saw on the internet some time ago a breakdown of how Poptoys made these 6-scale katanas. And I believe that they are a actual full tang blade, essentially, inset into this plastic piece here with that little metal hand guard slid over the top, and it looks and functions really well. The whole handle is wrapped in actual cloth instead of just being sculpted to look like it, and that does, I think, help the figure grip the blade. Now, one thing to note, the blade on this one, I don't know if you can actually hear that, but this wakizashi sits fairly loose inside of that handle. That doesn't really bother me too much because for the most part I just need to sit in there inside of that sheath, which it does just fine. Now, the weapon that I think is most important to me displaying this figure, because I want to display an awesome, badass 6-scale samurai, is going to be his katana, or his tanto, whatever kind of sword this is supposed to be. I'm Uchigatana? I have no idea. I don't know the semantics or really have the abilities or knowledge to tell the difference between all the different Japanese swords. But he comes with this, and this functions wonderfully. You can see there's even some detailing in that full metal blade. Like the wakizashi, it is a full tang blade sat into that handle. Unlike the wakizashi, this one is not loose at all. That is incredibly sturdy. The metal that they opted to use for it does not really have any bend to it. This feels like it'll last a lifetime on display in my shelf, and that's exactly what I would hope for. All right, now let's get into functionality. And it's hard to talk about functionality without first talking about the outfit. And I guess maybe that's almost like a disclaimer to this piece in terms of its functionality, because this outfit is intricate, thickly detailed, and has layers upon layers. There's that thin cloth undersuit that you can see down here with the pants, and there's something similar underneath all of this, and that's going to be covered up by this piece of thick cloth armoring right here, as well as a whole pad that goes underneath that breastplate. And with all this armor, then you're finally going to get to that outer layer of the armor itself. But with all this armor comes tons and tons of intricately tied and bowed strings and tassels, which are going to hinder articulation in a very minute way. For instance, if I lift up the arm here, you can see how these are tied on right there. And up there in the shoulder, you can see where that is looped through and attached to the chest plate here. And it's all very sturdy. None of this feels like it will ever fall apart or come undone while articulating the figure. You have these cloth strings down here tying the forearm. All of it. It's very remarkable. But it's also very sturdy. None of it feels like it'll come undone unless you yourself intentionally want to do that. Now, I consider myself a pretty handy little tinkerer when it comes to 1/6, and I will tinker with my figures quite often to get the look that I most desire on the shelves. With this piece, however, it's way too much. I wouldn't tinker with it even if I wanted to, because I really doubt my abilities to get everything back on the exact same way that I took it off. Luckily, as I've said before, it's all very high quality, and I do not feel the need to tinker with it. It's very sturdy. I don't feel like anything's going to come apart. And while it does hinder articulation a tiny bit, as we'll see here in a second, it does not hinder articulation too much. So first of all, let's start things off with a little bit of a T-pose. I'm going to T Ujio off here for the camera. There we go. Get that arm raised up. And he's going to go up to about right there. Those arms are going to come out just fine and only be pressed back down a tiny bit by that armor. So he has the width down. Going over here, you're going to be able to get that arm forward to about right there. And that's good. That's 90 degrees off of the body. You can see that that's only hindered not by this shoulder armor here, but actually by how tightly this cloth is tied in the back to the other arm section. I believe those are tied together underneath that armor there. And that is the only thing really holding that arm from going too much farther. The elbows have a double joint right there. And as you can see, that's more than 45 degrees. You're getting a great range of articulation with that. And your wrists are going to be on your standard 6 scale wrist peg. Now this is a coup model body, so if you have had coup model bodies in the past, you know kind of what you're getting into. I like their wrists because they are very thick, very sturdy. There's plenty of hinge and there's going to be plenty of swivel, and it's all followed very naturally by the rest of that outfit. Now you're not going to get any diaphragm articulation because this is a very solid piece of armor, but you'll be able to get a lot more from those hips. Now if I come down here, I'm going to be able to kick that leg up about 90 degrees away from the body. That works out really well. A relatively unhindered double jointed knee despite all that armor. And if you get down here, you're going to have your standard 6 scale ankle pivot, which works out great. You're going to be able to point your toes down. You're going to be able to point your toes up a little bit. And that's going to afford enough to get Ujio into some good deep stances. If you want him in a good deep stance for doing some cool samurai stuff, fighting off a gang of enemies. And he's going to look pretty good while he's doing it. Let's get that hand on that sword there. Maybe he's just about to reach for his blade. There. 30-second pose, not even. Took maybe 10, and it looks good. Everything on the outfit, everything on this figure flows so naturally from one thing to the next that it really just helps with its awesome shelf presence already. There's not a lot of fiddling, not a lot of hassling or tinkering that you're going to have to worry about with this figure. The most, I would say, even that head sculpt, see? The most tinkering you're going to have to do, I would say, is going to be if you get the helmet that comes with this figure, or any helmet like I have, getting that tied on can be kind of a pain in the rump. The best thing you can do is actually go onto YouTube, watch a video of someone tying the armor on a full-scale piece of armor, and then try to replicate that onto this figure as best as you can. That's how I did it. So I took this piece right here and I tied it, looped it around there, and then I went underneath and through and then back underneath again, and then I did the other side. I went around there, then I went underneath and tied it to the inside of the helmet and ended up wrapping it up down here. That might have sounded like complete gibberish. However, if you watch a video, it'll hopefully make a bit more sense. And there's several different ways to do it. Now I got it on there nice and tight. That helmet articulates with the head, and I'm not worried about that coming off at all unless I untie this knot myself and loosen everything to get that helmet off. And that's pretty nice. Left, right, down, up. It's going to be able to do just what I need it to do. And there we go. That's going to bring us into the closing section of this review. This look at a beautiful 6-scale samurai with a Hiroyuki Sanada likeness. Like I've said before, this is still, to this day, my favorite 6-scale samurai. And I've had quite a few. I've done a few reviews on this channel years ago about some different ones. And when I picked this guy up originally, Poptoys was still relatively new on the scene of 6-scale samurai. It was really just Coup Model, who had been making figures in that vein with relatively little to no competition. So I took a look at their Sonata Yukimura, and that was my first 6-scale samurai. It was an awesome piece. I thought, how could this ever get any better? And then I got a couple of other pieces, and they started, instead of just sculpting these as hard plastic plates, they were actually threading everything through in a very realistic way. And then I picked this guy up, and it was game over. Because like I've said before, there was hardly any tinkering that I needed to do. Everything was functional, playable, right out of the box. Besides that helmet. The helmets are always going to be a little bit of a pain in the butt to get onto a 6-scale samurai figure. But that's okay, because like I said, I like to tinker. And everything was to such a high standard of quality that I really don't think I'm ever going to need another 6-scale samurai. Now I've kept buying them since then, and it's fun to see just what other pieces are coming out. Now we have Aiko model. They're making 6-scale samurai. Ku model is still doing things, and they're still innovating in their own way. I haven't picked up a Ku model samurai in a long time, but I do have a newer one on the way, so I look forward to taking a look at that. We've gotten VTS Toys, Ghost of the Battlefield, their Ghost of Tsushima figure. More companies have hopped into the 6-scale samurai game to deliver their take on it. And as it's happened, I just have yet to get one that I'm happier with in my collection than the Poptoys Brave Samurai Ujio. Yeah, and all. It is incredibly durable. I'm not concerned. I would just as soon have this as a centerpiece in any sort of historical fantasy collection as I would put it into a plastic bag and take on a hike with me to get some outdoors wilderness sort of pictures of it, doing some cool stuff out there. And I have little concern about the safety of this figure. So I enjoy it. I did always sort of regret selling it the first time I sold it, so I'm happy to have one in the collection once again. And it'll probably be the last samurai I have that ever leaves the collection if I do end up selling some more of my historical figures down the road. I am probably never going to attempt to undo any of the armor pieces. Everything is tied, and they are tied very tightly. I don't feel like this figure is necessarily made to be tinkered with in that regard, or untied, because I don't think I'd ever be able to get anything back on. I'm not even sure the few pieces that I have put on, like this sword that's tied on with that black belt. I don't even know if I did that correctly, but it's on there snugly, so that's good. Anyways, if I've missed anything in this review, or you have any questions about this figure, please let me know in the comments. I'll get back to you as quickly as I can, or I'll make another video, maybe a short, to help you answer whatever questions you might have. I'll be taking a look at a couple of other samurai here in the near future. Like I've said, this is my favorite, so if you're hunting one down, you can't do too much better with this. I would recommend this to people who collect 6-scale samurai exclusively and often, as much as I would recommend this figure to a beginner, someone who hasn't had a whole lot of fully armored figures with real metal pieces or any armored samurai figures. I would recommend it to any level of collector because it is that good. Now, I snagged this piece, this non-exclusive piece here, for about $230 on the eBay. And I think that might be right around, if not just under, the original SRP of this guy. Just the other day, I was in one of the Facebook collectors groups, and I found somebody selling, of course, just after I had bought this piece, they were selling the deluxe edition with Ujio's actual bullhorn helmet, which is a really awesome helmet with a whole lot of shelf presence if you do decide to get that. They were selling for $260 in the Facebook groups. I would have bought that in a heartbeat if I didn't have this guy in the mail already. from eBay. So you're going to be able to find it right around in that range if you're patient and you're willing to do a little hunting. Now, if you go onto eBay and you need one quick, you're probably going to pay more around in the range of $360 right up to about $400 for this figure after shipping and taxes. That's really not terrible. When I first bought my Brave Samurai Ujio, I bought it from Big Bad Toy Store. Surprised that they were selling something that I don't think is licensed, but I wasn't complaining. And I think that exclusive version was right around $360. So not too bad. Really, we're a few years on with a whole lot more samurai action figures on the market, and you can still get this guy for right around SRP, if not just under. I endorse it entirely. Go ahead and pick one up if you haven't, or if you were on the fence. It's great. And just as it is one of the favorite samurai in my collection, I'm sure it will be for you as well. Anyways, I'm going to sign off now. Thanks for tagging along in this video with me. Stay happy, stay healthy, and keep on collecting. Nerdy Narwhal, out.